Okay, we are live. So welcome to the regular Jenkins configuration as code subproject meeting. Today is June 5th, 2019. We have several people on the call. It's Joseph Peterson, Tim Jackamp, and Ramon Leon. We will have several topics in the agenda today. Probably I'll just share my screen. Okay, do you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope this time I don't mess it up because yesterday we had a knowledge transfer and finally the screen share wasn't recorded properly. Okay, so I just followed the agenda template which we had before. So Evelyn was unable to make the meeting today, but I believe she will join next meetings. So let's talk about news. There are also some updates in compatibility for JCask. There are some ongoing discussions about JCask test automation in Jenkins core and also test framework enhancements. And if you have any other topics you would like to add to the agenda, let's discuss that. So does anyone want to discuss anything else apart from this list?
No.
Yeah, one of the topics we could discuss, we have one open pull request to the Jenkins core. Well, not just one, but one seems to be stalled about default properties. So maybe we could also add them to the agenda.
Sure.
Okay. So last meeting was almost 1 month ago. Since that, we had a bunch of Jenkins configuration as code releases. Actually, we had, quite a number of releases since that time. I believe the last release we were discussing was 1.14. So maybe you, Joseph, would like to summarize what changed since that time, because you were effectively driving the integrations.
Yes. So we fixed a bunch of the export issues we had, but that also meant while fixing those, we moved all the stuff out to the decided or the respective plugins. So we no longer have any support plugins inside the latest release. So that's a good achievement, I would say, that we now have everyone in every plugin has their own configurator that they used to be hosted inside the support plugin. So people can go ahead and uninstall support plugin. That's and we mostly did bug fixes. I guess we had a stapler converter issue because of a core update that was luckily caught in time before it became an issue, I would say. So and other small bug fixes. We made some regressions though from 17, 18. They're probably you're better off going straight to 19.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I tested the lowest version and it looks perfectly fine in terms of exports.
Yes.
So thanks a lot for fixing it quickly. One comment about configuration as code support. It's cool that we got rid of that. But there is a way to actually mark it as deprecated on Jenkins plugin page because for example, here it's not marked as deprecated. And it's also not marked as deprecated in update centers. And,
don't think it has a wiki page. That's the issue, I guess.
Maybe it's also something to consider, just to have a kind of tombstone there. So basically deprecating a plugin. So there is a process which it's pretty straightforward actually. So you can use that in order to just get the notice on a plugin page and in update center, if I recall correctly.
I'll go through that, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Do we have anything else about new releases?
I think we covered most of it. Like, yeah, a few bug fixes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too noteworthy to mention. There's actually one important. So there was a bug where if you were using Docker instances or any environment variables, the config file that you could point to was being, or the environment variable wasn't the preferred thing. So if it was previously loaded the configuration, then it would always use the one that was configured inside
Okay.
the source, I guess, or the configuration file over like preferring the environment variable. So that's one improvement, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's important.
Yeah.
Than previous configuration.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So what else do we have? So regarding new maintainers, yeah, now I believe it's official. So team Jackamp and Oleg. So that's sorry. There is some background noise.
I think it's Tim.
Oh, yeah, it's a background noise from London. It's totally justifies that. Yeah. So yeah, Tim and me, there was a discussion yesterday, and now we officially joined the maintainer team. So we have all permissions, including releases if needed. So just in case we have summer breaks and other things, we have more bandwidth in the plugin in terms of maintenance. So if we take a look at current repository permission updater, by the way, Tim, you have merge permissions, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So
So
we should be all set.
I didn't give out support plugin because we finished with it. So if Joseph needs to do one more release to that potentially.
No, the final release for support plugin was the last one. So
Yeah,
8.3 actually.
If we need to deprecate it in the update center, though,
Uh,
may need to do one more.
Okay. Yeah, so this is our current configuration. So Pragma is release bot used by Evelina. Then we have Joseph, me, Tim, and yeah, Evelina stays a security contact. So yeah, this is the current configuration for the configuration code plugin. And yeah, obviously there is a lot of things happening around in the project. So yeah, maybe maintenance will be more and more simple. Okay, back to the agenda. Yeah, we also got a number of integrations. So one of the topics already referenced by Joseph, that configuration as code support plugin is deprecated. So all integrations have been moved to respective plugins. There is also a number of ongoing work for making other plugins compatible. Yeah, I think we can just switch to the next topic about compatibility updates. There were some changes. So firstly, over past few weeks, I spent some time to scrap all existing PGCast related issues in Jenkins Jira. So yeah, before that we had some issues in GitHub issues. We had some issues in Jenkins Jira. Some issues were not categorized correctly. So I just spent some time in order to process all the reports and put them in Jira. So we use the dashboard we originally created almost 1 year ago. And now here you can see all the references and also resolutions. So yeah, there are still some gaps which I will clean up. But yeah, basically it can be a good source of information for whomever wants to understand what is not supported. The thing in this dashboard that we don't have a list of what is supported because we assume that with our current frameworks, many things are actually supported out of the box, though we didn't test everything. But yeah, this dashboard tracks newly discovered issues at least. Okay. So regarding this dashboard, maybe it's a question to you, Tim and Joseph. What we do to duplicate the effort? Because my understanding is that we still have a kind of overlap between this dashboard and this plugin compatibility tracking.
So we should add a link to the dashboards in that comment, I think. And there's two dashboards. There's one that shows all the issues, and then there's one that just shows open issues. I think the open issues one is in the README now.
Okay.
Okay. The idea for the plugin tracker on GitHub was more also for pull requests, because it's a lot easier to track what is ongoing for pull requests on GitHub at least. So that was the idea for that.
Yeah, which totally makes sense, because yeah, Gcask plugin maintainers are also expected to somehow facilitate integration reviews.
Exactly.
And it's our joint interest. GitHub dashboard is rather for pull request. So what I was doing, I actually agree with Joseph that it's rather for pull request. When I was scrubbing the dashboard, I just went through the list of issues here, and I hope I created Jira issues for all plugins. So you may see links here. Yeah, I haven't renamed all pull requests, but I believe that I went through this list. Yeah, so we can still keep using it as, for tracking pull requests, and then somebody takes a look and just creates a Jira mirror issue so that we get this dashboard. Because one of the advantages here that we have released as field, which kind of helps.
But that could probably be a nice integration to Jira, better plugin or pull request oversight or something.
We had such integration, but at some point we disabled it because it was bringing down our Jira instance. Now there is an ongoing project for migrating Jira instance from self-hosted instance to Atlassian Cloud.
Oh,
So
nice.
once we move to Atlassian Cloud, maybe we will have less performance issues, and we will be able to reconsider that. But yeah, right now performance was the main concern and the root cause why we disabled integration with GitHub.
I think the Atlassian Cloud also has a better integration for GitHub, so that should help.
Also a fair point.
It's just you need to be on a new version of Jira. Atlassian Cloud should be the same, but.
Yep. Yeah, waiting for creation to. So yeah, you can also make the meeting notes, by the way. Okay, another thing by Joseph is actually we now have a new query for Jenkins core issues, because in addition to plugin compatibility issues, we also discovered a number of issues related to Jenkins core. So here we use the same Jcast compatibility table as for plugins, but it just filters on all core issues. And here you may see that, well, actually it's quite a number of issues. Some issues are rather pull requests, like read-only configurations, which is, well, it's probably big. It's really an epic. It's not just a single feature. But yeah, there are also some relatively small issues we are trying to fix, like list view management, default properties in tooling, which we will discuss later, and yeah, other such things. And hopefully we will be able to learn some pull requests soon. Okay. Anything else about this topic? Okay, one issue which still concerns me a lot is about this one, job loading and Jcast chicken and egg. So yeah, it's a pretty old issue we have in JCask plugin that, well, basically job loading is not really reliable. So maybe it's something we could think about and maybe at the next meeting, because yeah, it's a big chunk of work and we really need to coordinate whether we need to fix it. Mhm. Does anybody hit this issue except me?
No, I hit it several times with some plugins at least as well that expect configuration to be alive before it's there.
Yeah, I don't hit it in my setup.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, probably this issue will end up in JEP, but yeah, this is what we need to discuss, because yeah, currently initialization graph for Jenkins isn't really configuration is code friendly in any means. So yeah, it's likely a massive patch for Jenkins core.
There's also the plugin tool management tool that we could probably discuss introducing them at the same time. So they probably need one before us, I would say.
So regarding plugin management tool, so basically this is a project which happens under umbrella of platform special interest group. So just a second, I'll open this page. Oh no. So yeah, we have this project, plugin installation manager CLI tool. Yeah, so this is a project which is currently in progress by Natasha Stopa. She's one of GSOC students. You can see some familiar names in the mentor list. And basically, this project is going forward to have a plugin manager and CLI library. And once it's done, we could consider integrating this library into the core and maybe managing plugins by configuration as code. The biggest problem with this plugin, with this story, I agree with you, Joseph, that it's related, but the problem is that it still goes not in the configuration startup. So yeah, plugin management would need to happen here, not here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's another chicken and egg problem, because you cannot really manage plugins from a plugin. And basically what it means for me that it shouldn't be a plugin. It should be rather a library which we inject into Jenkins Word file on startup and which does some management.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some ways to do that. One of the ways is to use custom word packager, as we discussed before, and inject this library. Or maybe we could just make it a part of Jenkins core functionality, which is also possible. But yeah, it will require a discussion and also probably a job. But I think it might make sense to make it a part of Jenkins core.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's also a kind of bigger story. I just do not think that we will get to it right now, because yeah, this project is in progress. So likely we will have something by August. Fingers crossed. But yeah. Yeah, so for now, yeah, it's safer to say that JCask just doesn't manage Jenkins plugins, and yeah, likely we'll have JCask support in the core or in this tool. We might have support of reading the same configuration files if we want, but yeah, it's a story yet to be discussed, I would say. Okay. Anything else about core issues? Yeah, by the way, I should probably add plugin management to this list, because now we don't really have it. Okay. Okay. So if there is no topics here, we can just move on to testing things. We basically have two stories One is about automating JCask test in the Jenkins core. So it comes actually from these stories, because we know about several bugs in Jenkins core, and these issues are not the first defects we fixed in Jenkins core to support the Jenkins configurations code. So this query now doesn't support historical issues which have been fixed, for example, last summer by Nicola Belov, and probably we'll need to add them to the dashboard later. But anyway, at least some issues represented here. And when we fix something, it would be nice to have some test automation so that we can cover that. And we had a discussion about that yesterday, I guess, in the pull request. And the proposal was to actually have JCask integration tests in the Jenkins core. There are multiple ways to do that. So one of the ways, which was pretty straightforward, is just adding everything to Jenkins core test suite. But it looks like this approach gets negative feedback from Jesse and Alex Earl, because they're concerned that JCask already has a lot of this test suite already has a lot of tests for different plugins. Jenkins. So basically this is a test suite, and the concern is that it's already too heavy. So we could resolve it by multiple approaches. So one of the approaches that we could just put another test suite here. So for example, we already have a test suite for JDK 8 tests, which includes tests which are not relevant on Java 11. So we could also put a test JCask, whatever test suite here, as one of the solutions to address Jesse's concerns. But it might be a bit lame. And actually what Jesse proposed is to rather have plugin compatibility tester. So plugin compatibility tester hasn't been discussed at this special interest group meetings yet, right?
Nope.
Do you want to have a quick introduction for this tool?
I would.
Okay. So what we have here, there is a plugin compatibility tester framework. Actually, this framework is a kind of cornerstone of all new automation we are doing. This framework has been heavily used when we were working on JEP 200, then when we were working on Java 11 support in Jenkins. So this framework has a lot of enhancements, lots of tooling documentation now. What it basically does, it runs tests from a plugin against a particular Jenkins core or work package. So it means that if you use custom work package or other tools to package your own Jenkins work file, you still can use this framework. And then, you can run it in Docker, you can run it in local thing, but what it takes, it actually takes artifact ID, and it takes Jenkins core if you want. So you can, for example, pass custom Jenkins word file, you can pass custom sources from a repository or from a local directory, and then plugin compatibility tester, which will build combination of Jenkins word file and the plugin you passed. So basically, it's a really complicated version of this command. So what we do in Jenkins sometimes to verify against the new Jenkins core, defy -d Jenkins version equal, let's say, to 164. So plugin compatibility tester is an advanced version of that. And it also produces some fancy test reports and compatibility matrices. I'm not sure I have any on this machine because it's a new one. Let me take a look. Documents, the Jenkins, the demo. Okay. Okay. So let's. Oh, I have some report. Open, yeah, plugin PCT report. Does it even work? Yeah, it should work. Okay, it doesn't work. So yeah, the demo failed. Documents, Jenkins. Yeah, I'll probably apply some tweaks for that once I'm on VSL 2.0. But yeah, for now, yeah, I'll probably just open it in such way out. PCT report HTML. So I have no idea what are the reports there. Oh, yeah, so this is a combination matrix for some last Java 11 tests. So you may see that actually we launched plugin compatibility tester against a number of plugins and yeah, against multiple Jenkins configurations. So it was weekly release, it was LTS, and here you can see some test results. So basically, if you go there, it just it just executes a Jenkins build with some updates. So it's not just this Maven Clean Verify Manus Jenkins version, because we apply a lot of fixes to plugin POM and to POM in order to make it compatible with newer version. We automatically resolve enforcer issues. We resolve issues with detached plugins. So when just plugin POM doesn't work, plugin path tester can work, and this is the main advantage of that. No, it leads to a lot of complexities, and yeah, as PCT maintainers, we also have a lot of fun keeping instances stable. And yeah, so what we could do, we could just run a plugin compatibility tester against configuration as code plugin as a part of Jenkins pipeline. So we could take the latest release of JCask plugin, or maybe the development version, and we could take the under development version of Jenkins core and run plugin compatibility tester in order to verify compatibility as a part of Jenkins pipeline. And yeah, pretty much the same. We could also use PCT in order to do some integration testing and set a JCask plugin if you want. Okay, any questions so far? Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe somebody has already tried PCT for Jenkins configuration as code.
Yes.
Oh, you already did that. And
yes,
okay.
it fails.
Okay.
It fails because the first thing PCT does is process classes, and it failed not finding one library, YAML, the YAML library we use. If you do the same in the plugin compatibility in the configuration as code plugin, if you do the same, it fails as well. So maybe we need to do a hook in the PCT, or adjust the life cycle of configuration as code plugin.
Yeah, so it's speaking of advanced tweaks, you may see that there is a number of hooks here, because yeah, these hooks are actually needed in order to work around some issues we know about. For example, Blowocean hook, what it does, it just it properly retrieves where the how the plugin is organized, where is POM data located, and here, well, there is some just some location logic which allows to understand whether the plugin actually belongs to Blowocean. So yeah, there is a lot of such hooks which make the repositories working properly. And yeah, if you want to use PCT, it's something we will need to fix. So yeah, it would be great if we have a Jira issue for that later, so that we could take a look together maybe at the next meeting. Or so let's see.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Joseph, team, what do you think about using PCT for the repository and maybe for Jenkins core once it runs properly?
So we would move our integrations to PCT rather than in the actual repo. Is that how it would work?
Well, you can keep integrations as is. So all existing tests can be retained as we have. But we can use PCT in order to invoke this test against different Jenkins core versions, which are not compatible by default. Or maybe we could use PCT in other versions to test against JCask. Does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely seems worthwhile to be able to test on more recent core versions. I think we're already running against roughly the latest LTS, I think. And
yeah, so you're running recent LTS, so you're running current version in the baseline. But yeah, if we want, we can add more.
problem is that the build already takes quite a long time and it's very easy to hit infrastructure issues. I think that's why Windows isn't being run there anymore.
Is it important from JCask perspective?
Windows not so much, but it would be nice to get the fixed agents running out of disk space. That's an issue we hit a lot because we have a lot of people trying to do pull request.
Yeah, right. Okay, regular disk space issues. Yeah, we were talking about it with Olivier yesterday at the meeting, actually. So maybe we will need to work a bit on improving the situation. Well, we will definitely need to do something, but yeah, it's complicated now. One of the things which we actually hit a few days ago is that if you want to import configuration, it should have no spaces in the path.
No. It was fixed.
Oh.
It was a failure in the test because the path I was setting in the input text in the UI was wrong. Was wrong in Windows. In Linux was right. So I fixed that, and now it can have spaces.
Okay, so basically it's not relevant. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. But yeah, basically having at least some Windows test automation definitely wouldn't hurt. Okay. Yeah, so probably, yeah, I like to create a follow-up task. Okay, I'll just keep it in mind so that we don't miss it. Okay, yeah, thanks for the fixes. Okay, other related stories about JCask test framework enhancements. So yeah, it's a pull request by Ramon, and maybe he could explain context.
Yes. We would like to add JCask support for several plugins. So to go faster on the integration, I added an abstract class to make it easier for plugin authors to make a test to check the complete round trip we set about configuring an instance, exporting the configuration, importing that, validating that configuration against the UI, and importing the configuration. So far, the exporting file cannot be imported. So I did a workaround in the PR to just use the the specific settings for the plugin. It concerns a team, as he wrote, because the goal of the test is not achieved because of the failure in the export. I think that maybe what we can do until the export file can be imported successfully is just to crop the specific part of the plugin under test from the exported file and just import that part. With this change in the PR, I think the plugin author is going to be sure that the configuration is successfully exported and imported.
Yeah. So how much is missing to get it working? Is it only about this pull request?
Yes, it's a change in that PR. Also, I was trying to validate the exported file, the exported configuration against the schema, but I didn't manage to do that because I didn't find a right tool to do that. I was trying to do JSON. Sorry.
The JSON schema is very broken.
Yeah.
Functionality just doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have tasks for that?
Yeah, there's an issue with it with some comments on it. I spent an hour or two on it, but it just doesn't work. There's lots of issues with it. I fixed a couple of them, but it needs a good amount of work or a rewrite.
I think the best thing to do for the schema is to rewrite it. Use a library instead or something that it feels wrong, that it's not like it's handwritten with some what it's called. It's stapler magic or jelly magic. So I would prefer it with Java code instead of like some handwritten jelly code.
Okay.
So I have a question for Tim. Is that is he would be happy if I do that change in the PR instead of export the file and just ignore it, extract from this file the specific part of the plugin and import that part to be sure that the configure and exported configuration of the plugin is safely imported.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay.
Well, I gotta head off now.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, here we agreed that import configuration files as a workaround, right? Yeah, one of the stories about this particular pull request. So while we're around, yeah, there is a pull request from the Jenkins core, and I'm kind of body blocking for that. So actually, I wanted to understand what we do next. Well, actually, I approved it, but yeah, the situation with this pull request is that actually, yeah, we want to get rid of these default properties. But yeah, there are two ways to do that. One way is what is currently implemented by Joseph, just by restricting method in Jenkins API. So we did some verification, and this method is not used anywhere where we have access code to. So it includes open source plugins and, for example, some private source plugins I can access. So this method is not used, and we could probably just lend this patch as a workaround. The problem is that even if you let this patch, it won't be available in the LCS baseline because we cannot backport this change where we deprecate API. Well, probably we could, but it would require serious discussion with Oliver Gonza as a LCS officer. And one of the workarounds I was proposing for this particular change is actually having a blacklist on the JCask side. So yeah, there was a kind of discussion here. I basically proposed that instead of doing this patch, or maybe in parallel with doing this patch, we teach JCask to somehow ignore arbitrary methods we pass. And for example, we can use this engine in order to just skip this method so that it doesn't get exported in JCask anymore. So my question to everybody on this call is, what do we do about that? Do we want to proceed with core on the patch, or do we want to have a patch on the JCask side?
I think a patch in the JCask side is fine, because I already did one patch actually for blacklisting something in credential plugin.
Okay, so you already have an engine for...
No, because that was specific for credential plugin. It was exporting in a very specific place, and it was reporting the wrong category, but it was weird. It shouldn't be there. It's gone now. But I think we should definitely create an engine for introducing blacklisted in other places. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something which would be important for us, because yeah, my problem is not with this pull issue specifically, but with the fact that it's a rather architectural issue, because yeah, you will likely have a lot of such methods and plugins. And by having a way to just blacklist them on JCask side, or maybe like we did for JEP, well, I forgot the JEP number. Yeah, JEP 200. So for for JEP 200, we actually have blacklist on the plugin sites. JEP 200. Well, yeah. So what we did in this implementation is that yeah, we actually support passing a resource inside a plugin directly, which blacklists particular configurations from export. And I think that you can pass this resource without modifying APIs, without depending on new versions. So it was pretty straightforward for us to just whitelist particular things via resource file. And probably we could consider doing similar approach for JCask as well if we hit these issues a lot. For Jenkins core, we can just hard code it or have an engine inside the JCask plugin, and then we can extend by reusing some of the code from JEP 200 if needed.
Sounds like a good plan.
Can this file be set by the plugins itself?
Yes.
To be able to the plugins author to write his part.
Yeah. This was a whole idea, because we were patching something like more than 100 plugins for JEP 200. And we didn't want to bump dependencies to the recent versions like we would have needed. So yeah, here you basically, there is a remoting class filter, which you put directly to the repository. For example, here. And here for JEP 200, we whitelisted two class serializations inside pipeline support plugin. And you just put the resource file and it starts working.
Yeah, I was asking to do the same for JCask. The plugins owner can do that, not only in the JCask plugin itself.
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
That would be the way forward. I don't want to. Yeah.
So in plugins instead of JCask. So yeah, this is what we can do. So we can just create a file called something like, let's say it uses Hudson remoting, and we call it IO configuration as code export blacklist.
I like the name. meaningful.
Yeah, with some with a list of methods we ignore. Yeah, it might be a bit more tricky to implement that because let's say we can have inheritance. So yeah, we will need to somehow handle that.
Question: could it not also be annotations instead, perhaps, or both?
Yeah, we can do both, but so the problem with annotations is that annotations may require core bump. So, for example, if we just deliver annotations as a part of existing configurations code plugin, then yeah, it will likely require a new core. What we could have is, for example, having a new model in JCask, like something annotations, which would, for example, target Java 7 or Java 8 with ancient Jenkins cores. And then plugins can include this annotations library. So pretty much like we do, for example, for symbol annotations or for find bugs annotations.
Well,
Yeah.
that kind of leads into another thing that me and Tim have been discussing in private, is that we should probably consider splitting configurator API and the core plugin, or the JCask plugin,
Yeah.
because that would be. Now we get back to why it's beneficial to split it. Basically, it's because we need to bump the core, and some plugins aren't ready, and yeah.
So
you already approached this topic earlier, I believe.
Yeah, for me, I do have strong. Yeah, so there is, by the way, a related job from Nicola about declarative data binding, which also references APIs. Regarding splitting, so yeah, we had an old issue for me because I still cordially believe that having a split is really important because yeah, split the JCask API plugin and JCask API. So why it's important? Because we have a pull request like target Jenkins 164.1. So once this pull request is ready, whatever annotations we include, a plugin using this annotation would have to bump to these versions, which is not acceptable for many maintainers. And another thing that, for example, if we resolve chicken and egg load issues in Jenkins core, again, we will have to bump Jenkins core, and then all dependencies will have to bump as well. So that's why I believe that this ticket is important. And yeah, probably we could revise that.
Yeah. The other thing is that looking at the numbers, I think we saw that configuration as code, most of them were 90% was above 250 LTS. So yeah. So it I think for the future of JCask, it would make sense because we need new features.
Okay, so yeah, I'll just reopen it for discussion. Yeah, I basically already had a discussion with Nicola, and yeah, he's fine if we revisit that. So yeah, so yeah, I reopened that, and yeah, I'll have a well. We need to investigate that, but yeah, I believe that for sustainability of the project, it would be something really important. Yeah, sadly, my original pull request didn't get merged, and now it just needs to be reworked completely because there is no way we resolve merge conflicts in it.
Yeah, I think actually I know Tim already started working on it. He did the most minimal viable project, so he already has a branch and everything working. So
Okay.
it could. He had some working prototype at least.
Okay. So who does have it? Just
Tim.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. If we could do so, it would be really nice. So yeah, if Tim creates a pull request, Okay. Yeah, I'll just CC team. So yeah, I believe he knows what to do. Okay. Yeah, because yeah, if we get it landed, it would be really helpful for the project.
I think so too. Yeah, it would be nice.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So we have 7 minutes left. Yeah. So this engine is something we will discuss with Ramon because yeah, since we depend on this story somewhat, maybe we will be able to deliver it. Yet to be discussed. And yeah, since you guys work on that already, you can take a look on that. Okay.
There's one other thing we probably could talk about is I know that the test framework, the Jenkins test framework, is that there's a plan to bump the version. That would also be very nice because that would mean we could introduce JCAS stuff. We have a lot of test method.
Can I show you something?
Yeah.
Because yeah, in another Google Summer of Code project, we are already working on benchmarks
Yes.
for Jenkins test harness, and one of the things we did for benchmarking. So there was a demo last week. This demo has a video, but what we have here is just a second. Yeah, there is a lot of code, but yeah, there is a configuration as code image benchmark. So what it means, it's a framework which allows to actually configure, pre-configure benchmark instance using Jenkins configuration as code. And we already use it in role strategy plugin. So in role strategy plugin, we configure our benchmarks using JCask. So what it includes here, it basically includes dependencies on configuration as code, which is optional. But yeah, I suspect that something like that it could be a good foundation for other test framework improvements.
Yeah, we have a few test functions inside JCask that could be benefit, and instead of us distributing it, it would be nice if the test harness could distribute them.
Yeah, so I believe it can be discussed in the same thread because yeah, since we get some pushback about including JCask test in the core, Jenkins test harness is also under question, but we can try discussing that.
Proof cases.
Yeah, so I'm still using a new keyboard, and yeah, I mess up things always. I think JCask test logic there, VIP for benchmarking. Yeah, basically, I think that we should discuss it in the same mailing list as for Jenkins code. Because, yeah, I believe these stories are interrelated.
Yes, they kind of are.
So my expectation is that as long as the dependency is optional, I already lost it.
It's fine.
Yeah, so as long as we have a dependency as optional in Jenkins test harness, we are fine. But yeah, it's something which needs feedback, and now we are also waiting for feedback about this pull request. So yeah. Okay, what I will do is see. So yeah, I think that it's yeah, JCask plugin is getting some traction. So if we get it included into default test framework, personally, I see no issue with it. But yeah, let's discuss with wider community.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else to discuss today?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Okay.
We discussed a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have meeting notes, so whomever is interested, yeah, you can just take a look at the meetings. But yeah, it's nice to see so fast progress in the plugin, and yeah, now with all this test automation, etc., we can work towards making even more production ready. And of course, stories like beta test, beta export, and maybe even JSON schema is something what is really important to us. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So thanks all, and yeah, I hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.